Hello, Sheena Douglas here from Sheena.tv. This week we're going to make this rather pretty, I think very bling-tastic tag. I love making tags. You know, when you finish you can either just send us a tag or you can pop it on a card, make a little acetate pocket for it, anything you want, but it's all about the technique that I'm going to show you the background. Now, looking at this background and look at the colours, if I was to tell you that I've used this set of Radiant Rain pourables to create it, you'd probably think, and rightly so, that I've totally lost the marbles this time. But I have, and I'm going to show you how, because we're going to team it up with another one of my favourites, Distress Inks. So here we go. So what I've got is I've created a really simple tag, just cutting it out freehand, well not freehand, using my trimmer and snipping the corners off, using some Centura Pearl card. Doesn't matter what colour you use because we're using the opposite side, the white uncoated side, which is, you know, I absolutely love for any of my painting or inking or any project really. And now, this is going to look pretty horrible before it starts to look any better, because straight away the most drastic colour Distress Ink for any background I think would have to be Black Soot. And check this out, just using your cut and dry foam, pick up some colour and splodge it on. Don't try and be too careful and arty with it, because it actually works better if you put big chunks of colour on like this. So you're going to continue, you're going to keep doing that. We've got Black Soot. I am also going to use some chipped sapphire, not getting really much lighter or more cheery, really, is it? Let's face it, Black Soot, chipped sapphire, still got that fire damaged look. But, woo, let's get wild and crazy and also get a bit of maybe Dusty Concord in the mix. But you'll see they're all really intense, the dark colours. That's the intention. I want these to just come through to give the tag kind of a distressed, darkish kind of undertone that's going to mix with the pourables when I apply them. So this is what I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue like this until I get something that looks like that. Okay, sleight of hand there. I hope you kept up with me. I think you did. And when you put the lids back on your Distress Inks, just make sure that you put the right lids back on. Just take time to do that, because you're going to get psychedelic stamping whether you want it or not next time. Right, next thing is we're going to start applying some of this colour. Now this is called, I'm sure this is Persimmon. It's the one that doesn't have a sticker on the background, on the bottom, but they come in sets of 3, your pourables, and I just love these. These are fab for big backgrounds, for transforming backing papers, for just, well, you'll see. They look great alone, but when you see them with Distress Inks, they just look absolutely stunning. Now, you've got a red colour here that is going to transform entirely when I mix it with this ink background. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 5 drops. When you get them, you'll get mixing cups in there. To be honest, I've never mixed enough that I need to use a mixing cup, because I use them really frugally. They go so far, and because it's Luminart, the quality of the pigment, the pigmentation's really strong, and the quality of the mica is superb, so it means that a little bit goes a really long way. Now, I'm sponging this. I've got a bit of a kitchen, well, really dodgy looking kitchen sponge here. This is a well-loved kitchen sponge. So just cut a bit of kitchen sponge up, and then use pull bits out of it so that it looks a bit irregular and it looks really mimicking a natural sponge, but for a fraction of the price, because you're going to get at least 4 out of one kitchen sponge, and I can actually get about 10 for £1. You need to shop at all the fine places that I shop at. Okay, so we've got a splodge of colour on there. Now, I'm not worried so far. This is the first lot. Is going to be quite intense in colour. The first 2 colours I'm putting on. I've done the Persimmon colour, which is that orangey colour, which has actually turned to a red with the purple. Now I'm going to add this, I think it's Autumn Leaf, also very similar to one called Nutmeg. So this is Autumn Leaf. The more you shake it, the more the mica's going to come out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you can, give it a time to shake. Now when you're picking this up on the sponge, there's a technique for that even. Don't just splodge it on there onto your sponge. Try and coat it evenly, because then you're going to get an even coverage of the colour. Now, can you see how this one's really got kind of, now it's going kind of rusty looking? which I really love. I love the fact that you've got a tag that's going to ultimately end up really pretty, but has got that aged kind of subtle colour difference going on that looks like it's maybe been aged by weather, or you know, when metals kind of oxidise and go really quite funky. I'm very happy playing like this. So they're the two stronger colours. Just going to wipe the background quickly. Next I'm going to use this one that looks like there's no colour at all, but is actually pearl gold. So give this one a good shake again to get the mica mixed up. Now this time when I apply it, I'm going to be a bit more generous with this colour, because this will actually dilute those other stronger colours. If you want it stronger, 2, 3, 4, 5, don't add as much of the solar gold, and you can actually have a little bit more moisture in your sponge. You'll get used to playing around with this to see what works best for you. But if you have more moisture, when you go ahead and sponge this, you'll find that it'll blend and it'll push the ink around a bit more. So instead of a static spongy look, you're going to get more of a diffused watercolory kind of distressy kind of all smooshed in, to be technical about it, finish. Now that looks pretty good to me, and until it's dry you're not going to see what you're going to end up with. I might put a tiny little bit more bling on that one on. 1, 2, 3, couple of, I mean really I'm counting drops. I started with 5 drops, then that was another 3, just because I like to have it kind of going in seams through the thing, so it looks kind of like also minerals. Right, good, I'm happy with that. I'm going to dry it, then I'm going to come back to you. So this is what we've got now that it's dry. You'll notice that until it's fully dry you won't get the really ridiculous reflection that you're going to get from these amazing micas powders that are in this product. So look, we've got all that colour playing with the underneath colour. I just think that's fantastic. So you got the little jiggy mica dance there. So what I've done, I've started, you might be able to make out a swirl on here. I'm using the Ornate Snowflake silhouette stamps that I've drawn, and this is the first stamp here. This is a big kind of funky, kind of tendrily swirl, and I'm just going to ink that up with some stays on, because I want this as a background thing. Now if you did a lighter background you could just use a distressing colour or something, because I don't really want it dead obvious, in your face obvious. So I'm just going to stamp that down. When you're using the large rocker blocks, remember to hold them in the middle to put a little bit more pressure. That's the secret to your success. Now I've got the tendrils on there. Next thing is something that I hate doing, but it's necessary because I'm going to stamp and emboss. An anti-static bag. If you haven't got an anti-static bag, corn flour. I don't like to use talc because talc's got moisturisers in it and it can stick and it might not come off again onto a background because that little bit of moisture in the talc can sometimes leave a bloom on black card. This is fit for purpose. If you haven't got that, use corn flour. Corn flour is just a basic substance that's been used to absorb oil for decades. Now, where's my stamps gone? You know what it is? I put them all there ready to use. The next thing I'm going to use is this long border stamp, and this one is again all in that A5 stamp set called Ornate Snowflakes. I recently did this in a demonstration and everybody was loving it, and they had missed it last year, and that was just because it didn't get much live TV coverage, purely and simply because of my health issues. I was in hospital shortly after. There you go, that's for someone who treats their body like a temple. These things happen. So, right, I'm just going to, again, rock forward with these, and I'm pressing down a little bit just because that Versamark is a little bit on the dry side. I'm going to use this is a Platinum Sparkle embossing powder. Now, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to go over to the tag and show you how it's working. What I like to do is I like to have a look, and have a check and see if you've caught any areas. Just get rid of them before you heat emboss them, because you can get rid of them easily enough with a little dry paintbrush or something. But what you want to do is not have them there, because if you heat fix them, they're stuck. So when you're embossing, I wouldn't suggest someone who's brand new to heat embossing, new stampist, I would suggest that you use a metallic, but that doesn't have glitter in it. The only reason is that it's a little bit more tricky to see when the glittery ones change. and you kind of can get a little bit confused on whether you've overheated it or not heated it enough. Now you can see how that's going to work on that background. So moving on to the finished tag, I've continued, I've stamped, and you can see that border joins up really well, really easily. If I move this back, I'm able to see better. It joins up really nicely, so that would be great for a scrapbook page also. I've used one of the snowflakes, there's 3 different patterns, and I've actually stamped them just randomly over the card, over the tag. I've stamped the wording on another piece of a different colourway, I think that works really well. And I've edged around the whole tag using the same embossing powder. Little tip, when you're edging your tags, don't do this, don't do that, back and forward. You'll shred your ink pad. Press into it like this, press along like this, and if you tilt it in a little bit you'll get a wider border, but press, don't shred. What I've done is I used some stick and stay and I stuck some purple card to the back. Then I cut the card out to match the shape of the tag. I used my crocodile to add an eyelet and some ribbon that I think matches really nicely. And that's just one thing, but it's all about that fun background technique. I think you'll love it. I love that background technique, and it's a winner every single time. It never fails to work, and you're using a bit of kitchen sponge. Seriously, you're not putting product anywhere you don't want it to be. So that's it. That's this week's little flick there with a beautiful ornate snowflake tag. And go to my website sheena.tv for galleries and where to buy these and other video inspiration and things. Thank you very much.